So, good evening. I'm Hector Gunther, Chair of CFAC, the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee to the Town of Barnstable. This is our August 26th, 2024 meeting. Under state law, I need to ask if anybody is recording this meeting, and if so, you should make yourself known. Not hearing any, I will ask Chris to call the roll, please.
All right, Hector.
I'm here.
Chuck.
Here.
Lillian.
Here.
Jim.
Present.
Tom.
Present.
Jeremy.
Present.
Hey, we got 3 present, and I'm here. Everybody's here.
So we have a quorum of 7. We're still looking for additional members to round out the committee to its full complement of 9. So if anyone knows of anybody who would be a candidate, please advance his or her name for consideration. So tonight, the agenda calls for us to first review the draft version 3 of the annual financial overview that CFAC publishes every fall. And I would like to make a couple of introductory remarks.
Now, Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt for a minute?
Yeah.
Did you want
please.
to go back on the minutes from the last 2 meetings first?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just going to remind you of that.
Yeah. In line with that, I would like to recommend that we consider both sets of minutes at once. Does anyone have comments on either set of minutes?
Well, we have to make a motion to approve before we can make comments. So
Okay, go
I
ahead,
make the
sorry.
initial motion for the June 24 and July 22 minutes.
Second.
Great. Any comments, suggestions, changes?
Well, I think Teresa always captures everything that's relevant. So congratulations to you, Teresa.
Great. All right. So do I have a motion to approve both sets of minutes?
We have that motion. All you have to do is ask for the vote.
Vote.
Please vote. Chris, would you take the
You want to do a
roll?
roll call vote? Yeah.
Please.
Hector.
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes.
Lillian.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Jeremy.
I will abstain. I wasn't at one of the meetings.
All right. And I will say yes. So everyone who was there is unanimous.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so the second item on the agenda is to review the version 3 of the financial overview report. I circulated it on Saturday, and I'd like to make a couple of introductory remarks. First of all, Jim Sproul's version, his revised version was pasted in. So we have his latest version, and we can discuss it on the education section. As chair, I made some edits and some changes. Wasn't able to make all of them. But as we all know, we're trying to get this document down to 12 pages. So I made some potential cuts that would get us most of the way there. We still have more cutting to do after this meeting. There was a substantive change in the CWMP section to reflect Mark's latest set of financial forecasts, and I rephrased it, and when we get to it we can discuss it, but I rephrased it as I thought appropriate. So when we get to that section we can talk about it. Most of the other cuts and edits were not substantive in nature, but the purpose of this meeting tonight is to go over the entire document, page by page, and get everybody's inputs, including any changes that I might have made that you want to discuss. So if that's clear, I would suggest we just start with page 1. By the way, I tried to, I wanted to be controller of the document tonight, but I wasn't able to get Zoom to work on my laptop. So I'm on my iPad, and Mark Milne has kindly agreed to post the pages, and he'll make the edits as we go along. So on page 1, as I said in my cover email, well, it's already gone. Mark already took away the government structure header on page 1. So any comments, questions on page 1?
Hector, just a minor one, under the community profile box, a
Right.
complete 533 page budget, should we add the word document there?
I'm sorry, do we what?
After the word budget, should we add the word document? It's the document that's available,
Yes, I think you're right, Chuck.
just one word, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't screw
Right,
up.
yep, that's a good change. Good,
Okay. Thank you.
okay. So Mark, you can make that change if you haven't done it already.
It's already,
We already
it's
saw
I
already,
it.
can't, it's hard to see on my screen because the screen is small. Okay, any other comments and changes? Page 1,
I think it looks fine.
good,
Yeah,
all right. I like the picture. I say that every year. It's a nice photograph. All right, second page.
could you move
On-
it over a little bit or something? Could you move it slightly to the left? Because I can't
Yeah.
see all of the text on the government.
Yeah,
there-
so
okay.
Mark, so
That's
go to
better.
page, and then go to page 2, Mark, yeah. So
Just-
the version that
sorry.
I sent, the
Sorry,
version
one
that
thing.
go ahead.
Just on that first page, it looks like there's text on the image, but it can't be seen. There's black text at the bottom, perhaps. And my guess is it's a citation of photographer and maybe location. So maybe just
Yeah, that's what it
Ah.
says.
white text instead of black.
It says Sampson's,
Yeah, do we want to put that citation below
yeah,
the,
that's much better.
Yeah, that
oh,
looks
good,
good.
yeah, put it in
But then
white.
then you need to move it in. Good catch.
Yeah, good, Jeremy.
Very good catch.
I'll have to update the citation, but I'll make a note.
Okay.
All right, on page 2, my only question I was to check the numbers in page 3, the operating capital budgets, 501.7 million in fiscal 2025, which more than doubled the fiscal 2024 level. Mark, those numbers are accurate?
This one's right here.
Yeah, so Mark, you're not using the version 3 that I sent around. You're using an older version because I made the one on my screen is different. I reworded that second sentence.
What does it say?
Let me go to my email. And I'll
All right.
pull up your
Yeah,
doc.
that I just clarified, and I put a highlight in. I just wanted to check those numbers.
Yeah.
So Hector,
she-
while Mark's doing that, I just have a contextual thought. If I'm reading this and I don't know a lot about the town, just having a sentence that says that the budget's going to basically double is a pretty big deal, I think, if I'm just reading this.
And that's what, yeah, go ahead.
And so there's a comment in here about, most of it's on capital spending and sewer, but then 2 paragraphs down, we have expenditures for local schools, the largest area of spending. I mean, if I'm reading the above and then I read that one, it's actually, so I would either add the largest area of general fund spending or something, or at some point, there's just a contextual thing that I might not be aware of if I wasn't kind of intimately familiar with the way the town does budgeting. Just telling people things doubled is just a kind of holy smokes moment. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and that's a good thought that I hadn't considered. And I think it's a little apples and oranges to, in my opinion, to sum the operating budget and the capital budget. But if we accept that that's an okay way to state those numbers, then yeah, we do need to clarify the comment about school spending.
yeah, and I think you know, again, as we go through the deck, I'm not sure the impact of the sewer project on the budget gets emphasized enough soon enough. And that's obviously an opinion. It's a pretty stark statement, and then to have to dig for why this happened, I think, and we'll see as we go through it. People may agree or disagree.
Yeah, this was your section, right, Chuck?
I think this was. I honestly don't remember back to what I did, but you know, my suggestion, if it's an accurate statement, is, you know, expenditures for local schools, comma, the largest area of, and then maybe add general fund spending, to distinguish it from the capital spending on the sewer project, which is really what's driving the paragraph 2 prior. So
Yeah, because the total of 89.6 is the operating budget. So you're correct. And that's a good point to make. So I think you're right. So I think it's the largest area of spending of the operating budget.
Yeah, however you do it, I think it lacks context. And, you know, if I'm reading the thing above and I see it went from 237 to 501, mostly the increase as a capital spending on sewer projects, then that's, you know, 250 million plus or minus, which dwarfs the school. So there needs to be context about.
Yeah. So first of all, Mark, is that statement that's highlighted, that's correct, right? Factually accurate?
Yeah, that's
I'll double check the numbers, but I think it is, because we had a very large capital program approved for fiscal year 25. That's the reason for the large increase.
Right. So I checked it too, and I thought it was accurate. So in that case, we should go to the first sentence in the last paragraph and maybe reword it to say the largest component of the operating budget, expenditures for local schools, the largest component of the operating budget. How does that, Chuck?
I think that's similar to what Lillian said, so that's fine by me. I just think it needs context, not my context.
So does that change, address your concern with this page?
It does. Yep.
Okay.
Let me just ask you this, Chuck, because if we're looking at context and we assume that the people who read this report don't have a general idea about government, our revenue, our spending, I'm wondering whether we need to have a sentence about the revenue. You see what I'm saying? That I want to balance it out, because we talk about operating and capital budgets, but we don't get into the revenue until the next page.
Until later on. Yeah.
So I wonder whether we just should have a general sentence or two about revenue and expenditures, just to keep it balanced. Because if you're reading this, you're saying this is the structure, this is what we do, and then all of a sudden you say, okay, we have an operating and capital budget, and schools are very expensive.
Right.
Can
Well,
I just, Hector, can I just make a comment to this point
Please.
that you're talking about? The reason why communities do separate capital budgets from operating budgets is for this particular reason. All right. I mean, if you include all your capital expenditures in the operating budget, you have wild fluctuations from year to year. And so I think you need to segregate out the capital budget from the operating budget to clearly show, you know, where all the costs are in each one of those separate documents. That's what creates confusion, because people look at this and they think, oh my goodness, the operating budget more than doubled from one year to the next, when that's not the case. We just had our largest capital program we ever approved ever. So that's why we do separate budgets.
That's an excellent point.
So perhaps, Chuck, you should reword in the next version of that third paragraph, after the first sentence of the third paragraph, have a sentence about the operating budget and what that total is, and then the capital budget and what that total is.
Yep, I can do that. That's easy.
Okay, and then go ahead.
And that operating budget is paired with the revenues that we're bringing in, to be like, look,
Yeah, I really think we need to mention revenue.
Okay. All right. So Chuck, can you tackle that as well?
Yep.
So if you would make whatever changes you want to this page, and then send it to me, and I'll repaste it back into the document.
Yep, that sounds good. I may have to call on Mark for specific numbers. Yes, but I will do. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep.
Good. Other comments on this page? I thought it was good.
Well, I think once we balance out the revenue and expenditures, I think it'll be perfect.
Right.
Okay.
And I do like the org chart. That's very helpful.
Yeah, that's a nice chart.
All right. Moving on to page 3. So this, just one word on the exhibit at the top right of the page. We're going to update that exhibit to reflect fiscal year 2025, and we're in the process of doing that. I'm going to send Mark the PowerPoint diagram, and he'll insert it in the next version. But other than that, and I made some light edits to this page. Do people have any comments or questions?
Well, let's see. Is this the one that has the pie chart now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful addition. Some of the paragraphs are the same as last year, so that's fine. But the pie chart makes it very clear.
Yeah. We have some new pie charts as a result of
on the next page. Yeah.
I'm just going to step away and get my printed copy of last year's document. Hold on.
While he stepped away, I do have a question. Am I the only person who finds the chart in the upper right corner, the one of the flows, to be incredibly difficult to read?
Yeah, no, you are not the only one, Tom. I have disliked this from the start, but content-wise, it's good content. I don't find it a compelling way to. I think people are just going to get fatigued trying to fight their way through.
Yeah, I don't know what it does. I don't think it does anything for us.
I'm sorry. What is your point, Tom?
I'm just whining about the chart that's highlighted right now. The one that shows the funds flows. I just find it very, very difficult to read, and I'm not sure how much it's going to help people. Yeah.
Well, I think, this is a chart that we first developed in last year's report, and the concept was that we would have not only a general fund and enterprise funds and capital investments, but we would add the five fire districts and have a graphical representation of those funds that came in and where they go. So I agree with you. It doesn't say a lot, but it is a picture that gives people you know, it does, to me, it does impart some information.
Well,
But
it imparts a lot of information, but I tend to agree with Tom and Chuck. Perhaps next year we can redo it so it's a little bit easier to read. Because when you get to the far right of that chart, I mean, unless you're really dedicated to find out how our money goes, your eyes are going to roll over.
I also think Hector, and I don't know who owned this. I can't remember if it was me or not. But
this was Neil. Neil did this last year.
Oh no, I mean the page though.
The page?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this page. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Let me just answer your question, Chuck. Jackie, before she left the committee, she was assigned the general fund revenue and expenditures pages, the 2 pages, and she opted to leave everything as it was written last year. The only updates are the numbers. So that's who is responsible for it, Jackie Johnson.
So
did nobody on our current committee take it over?
To
look at the text.
Yeah, I mean, I went over the text, but I other than the numbers, I didn't make any changes. Mark made changes to the numbers, and Mark added the pie chart.
Oh dear. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
So we need to look at that a little bit more closely, is what you're saying, because you've essentially left it the same.
Yes.
So what I was going to do, Hector, was I'll volunteer if you want to take a shot at this page,
Okay.
rather than use the committee's time. I had a number of edits to content below.
Okay.
But I think we could keep the upper right if that's the will of the group. Keep the upper right thing, but make it a little simpler, not a lot, but and a little more consistent with what's written.
Okay.
Just so verbiage matches up, and if you want, I'm happy to take a shot at that.
That would be great. So you're committing to make edits to page 2, government structure, and then you're going to take a close look at pages 3 and 4, and you'll send me revisions for the next draft.
Correct. And that way we don't have to go through, because I had a lot of them for tonight, and we don't need to go through those.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's mostly how it's phrased and laid out. It's not what it says.
Okay. All right. That's great. Thank you for taking that on, Chuck, those pages. If no further comments, should we move to enterprise funds?
No, let's go on to the next page, because there are 2 pie charts that are also excellent.
Okay. Well, Chuck is going to review both of these.
Chuck's going to look at the text.
Yeah, he's going to review them.
Okay.
Yep. Page 5, enterprise funds.
No, Hector, if we remember from the last meeting, we indicated that we were going to shift schools to come right afterward because of the pie chart that shows education. So schools was going to come right after the general fund revenue and expenditures.
Okay, so we would move page 8 to page 5.
Yeah, I think we agreed to that because it's the largest expenditure.
Yeah. That if that's what people want to do, that's fine. I hadn't recalled that.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that move.
Yeah, I think we discussed it last time.
Okay, sure. So Mark, can you move page 8 to become page 5 in the document? And I don't know if you want to, is it easy for you to do now, or do you want to just make a note to do it?
I'll make note to do it, yeah, because it's gonna change formatting and heading type and everything, because there's a lot of section breaks in this document.
Yeah. So shall we discuss the education page consistent with the new ordering? So should we go to page 8?
Yeah, that would be great.
So Jim, did you have any comments that you wanted to share about this page before we go over?
The content is the same as I sent out in the the loan document that I had and incorporated it in this format. The numbers have been reviewed by Chris, so they're consistent. I do have to relook at that. For some reason, I have 86.9 and the real number is 89.4. So I just wonder if that 86.9 was without the savings account. The funds were drawn from the savings account.
Right.
I think Jim, what that includes is, in addition to the general fund, it includes the educational expenditures that are being paid for out of circuit breaker and school choice. But I'll confirm.
Okay.
Okay. And then Mark, when I changed Jim's text from red font to black font, but I didn't change all the text in the two charts at the bottom. So can you do that?
Yeah. And that just represents every one of any number in red or any means that they were changed from the prior report. So if
okay. So does anybody have comments on this page?
Well, I do. I think that it's very clear, and it outlines where we get our money, what it's being used for, what the increases are. And I think the resident will read it and get a pretty good idea of what our public education system and budget looks like. So good job, Jim.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it, but I did, at Chuck's suggestion from last meeting, I did put that in a conversational tone. Again, I don't know if it made any sense, but this is because I didn't get any comments. We'll stick this way for now, and maybe at another time we can change.
Yeah, I like, among other things, I like how you broke out the factors for funding levels. Last year it was those numbers were based in or buried in a paragraph, but you've broken them out, and that's good to call out those 4 factors.
Yeah, I think it makes it really, really clear. I read your second one. I thought it was very interesting. It is more chatty, but this one stays pretty much with the style that the other pages look like so far. So maybe next year we can be more chatty.
Can I ask? I don't have context, so just a general question. I was blown away that more than half of our students are considered economically disadvantaged. I was unaware. And then almost a quarter are ELL. I mean, how does that compare to the state? Are we normal? Are we skewed? Are we?
I don't know the direct answer. It's very easy to find that there's all kinds of information from DESE that's it's all drop down windows. You could find that out pretty quickly, but
I believe that our proportion of ELL learners is higher than the state average by, I would guess, 5 to 10 percentage points. The economically disadvantaged level may be somewhat higher than average, but I don't think it's that far out of line with the state as a whole. I don't know. Mark, do you have a view there?
I would agree with that statement, Hector, but off the top of my head, I can't be positive, but I think we are a little bit higher percentage-wise than state average in both categories.
Yeah.
No, just interesting, but I agree with Lillian. I think it's a very well written section.
You know, I think that, and Jeremy sees it firsthand, there is a significant shift in education, and you see it in our budget requests for this year with the requirements for 29 teachers from ESSER funds, rolling that over into the budget. So there's a big change in our educational profile and the students that are going to our public schools.
Yeah, I think it's. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I just looked up the state.
Oh, Jeremy. Sorry.
This is the state ones. Low income is 42% statewide. First language not English is 26%, but English language learner is 13%. So we are a bit high. And I mean, we just got our rosters, and I have some classes that it's about 80% English language learners. So, and I think maybe explicitly stating that there are some requirements for funding by law, that it's not just out. I mean, certainly we care for students, but there's also some requirements to the legal needs for some of these that require more services.
Well said, Jeremy.
Jeremy, how is economic disadvantage defined? Does that show in what you're looking at?
Let me see if I can find that.
Does it have to do with family size and the federal poverty level?
It's medium income levels. I mean, it's the percentages below your median income level. It defines low income.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious. So, all right. Well, this page looks good. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Yep. Now shall we switch? Go back to Lillian. I take it that enterprise funds would be the next page.
I think it was CIP, wasn't it? Didn't CIP come next? Or did enterprise funds come next?
No, I believe the enterprise funds comes next.
Okay, then we can go back to enterprise funds.
Okay.
Okay.
So this one, any comments, questions? Lillian, you wrote this one, right?
No, I think I think Chuck did this one.
Did he? Hold on one second. Let me.
I can't remember who did what.
I have that on my notes. Chuck did enterprise funds. Yep.
Okay.
Chuck,
I've got a comment on line 4. The first sentence, it says, note that 3 operations are subsidized by. I don't think we need the note that. I think if we just start with 3 enterprise operations are subsidized by.
Okay.
And also, I wonder if that last sentence, this is because user fees don't cover all their costs, is necessary.
Well, I thought about that too, but we've made
the word subsidy implies that you don't have enough money.
Right. It's a statement of the obvious to us. But because I think it's helpful to have in my opinion, because we've introduced this topic by saying, enterprise funds are self-sustaining.
Or Hector, you could, rewrite it to say something along the lines of, because user fees don't cover all of the costs of 3 operations, they are subsidized by the general fund, and then the code.
Okay.
You can combine the two, get rid of note and still make the point.
Or you could just say 3 operations are subsidized by the general fund and community, blah, 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 because at the end of Marina Enterprise Fund, because user fees don't cover all their costs.
That's fine.
Just add it at the end of the sentence.
Yeah. All right.
Does that sound right? Is that okay with you, Chuck?
Sounds great to me.
So just add that part at the end. No.
No.
You took the wrong part out.
Yeah. Put that back in, Mark. Control Z.
Okay. Now
and put a comma after enterprise, after fund, and then say, because user fees don't cover all of their costs.
So what I was going to do is just cut that last sentence and put it after the word fund. So.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just use it, yeah, take that and put it after fund. Yeah, there you go. And then delete this is.
And capture?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit clearer and we get rid of the redundancy.
Yeah,
I'm good
good.
with that. I'm good
That
with
looks
that.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
All right, anything else on this page?
Can you roll down? I think that paragraph's fine. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Just comparing this to last year. Yeah, it's pretty, the charts are just like
It's very
last year.
clean. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next page is fire districts.
Yeah, I think Chris did that. And I
Chris,
think,
any, Chris,
There is
any comments?
there's a typo, I think, on, let me see.
District,
Yeah, it says districted somewhere.
yeah, 7th line down, the left-hand word.
Yeah,
Drop the ED.
yeah, there you go.
perfect.
In line 1, I think we had talked about it last time. Which provide both fire protection and emergency medical system services.
Okay.
Which
That's fine.
provide both. Yeah.
All right.
Let's see, what else do I have? Line 4. Oh.
Line 4, oh yeah.
No,
I
no,
thought,
I've gotten the, yeah. There was a line 5, fire district, tax should be lowercase.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. And then line 5, that's no, another line, redundant. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a redundancy in that sentence.
Which sentence?
Where it says collected on the same property tax bill as a service for the districts by the town.
Right.
You
Maybe,
change it to just the same bill. You can take out
yeah,
property
same
tax,
bill.
I guess.
Or we
Take
could
out-
just say, yeah, as a service. As a service by the town. Yeah. Does that? I think it takes out the redundancy a little bit. It says the same thing. Does that sound okay?
Yeah,
to
that's
you?
fine.
Okay. Okay, and then the next, the third line from the bottom, it says Village of Hyannis. Do we need to say the Village of Hyannis?
Yep.
Okay,
It should say in the village of Hyannis, I guess.
okay, in the village of,
Water
Yeah.
is supplied by the town.
yeah, in the Village of Hyannis, yeah. And I
Okay.
like the circle diagram. It's excellent. Good job. I'm sorry to be so wordsmithy about this.
That's all right. That's
That's
what
what
we're
we're here
doing
for.
is, yeah. All right, any other comments
Good
on the
job.
fire district page?
No,
Let's move on.
The
Move
one
on to,
question-
go ahead.
I did have a question come up from a resident of West Barnstable this weekend about the water service. And it certainly states like the water is billed separately for 4 of the 5 districts. Which her question, I was like, how much different is the water bill? And I don't know if that's reflected here of water bills, or like an explanation of water bills, for like usage and that piece of it. I mean, it's not a huge number, but it's the explanation of water bills maybe could use a sentence.
Yeah, this doesn't include water charges because water service is billed separately by each fire district as a separate charge from the tax. The tax covers really fire and EMS only.
Yeah, this is actually the fire tax, not the
So
water, not the water. Yeah.
do we want to include then water because that's a different piece of this? Like, is it valuable to include that in here, or does the inclusion of it warrant more description?
My opinion is that we're really talking about revenues and expenses under the heading of tax and budgets, and water charges are just, it's a usage fee, and I'm not sure that maybe we could add a sentence.
I think you have it here. I just highlighted it where it says 4 or 5 districts also supply water, which is billed separately.
Right. So that alludes to Jeremy's point, and I think that covers it.
Maybe just stating that the by usage fee, just maybe that's the wording that could be.
It's billed separately on a usage.
Yeah,
billed separately by usage. How about that?
That works for me.
Okay.
Good.
Well,
Perfect.
isn't all water based on usage? It's just a question.
Well, it depends on the town, I guess. So, like, I'm coming from Sandwich where there is no fee, so I think looking at just having it explicit in here, it's based on the usage would be.
Well, I know the COMM is based on usage.
Right.
I think it clarifies it. I would leave the words in.
That's fine.
I think that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
Next.
other comments on fire districts?
Good job. Good job, Chris.
Okay, capital improvement. Who worked on this? Capital improvement.
That was me too.
Okay. Anything you notice, Chris, or anything you want to share about this page?
I didn't see anything. I didn't change anything, so I don't know if you had changed anything.
I didn't make any.
I think it was pretty good. So
yeah.
Well, Mrs. Wordsmith has something. In paragraph 4, at the end, these projects will assist the economic growth and vitality of the town, as well as enhance the quality of life for residents by expanding and maintaining the town's fixed assets and infrastructure. I think that's really important for us to put in there.
Okay with me?
I'm sorry?
Okay,
yeah, I
with
think
me.
that's fine. As long as it all still fits on one page,
I think we can do it.
And I was gonna suggest we maybe change the word assist to support. I mean, policy support growth, policy support, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think that's a good change as well.
And I had one more general comment in the prior paragraph.
Okay, but then we need to go back to towns at the end of that previous sentence needs to be capitalized, capital T. Yep. Yeah, that's fine with me.
And Mark, in that sentence, change these projects will assist, change that to support. Perfect. Chuck, you had another comment?
My only other thought was, we talked about how the capital project submission changed year over year. And it was a big number. But if I'm reading this, wouldn't I care more about what was recommended rather than what was submitted? I mean, the submissions could just be a case of highballing to, you know, negotiate back to where you actually thought you could get to, as opposed to the numbers that we're actually funding. And I'm really just asking the question. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, well, in that third paragraph, it has the total submissions and then says that the town
Right,
manager
right.
recommended, you know, X amount,
Right,
which
but
is
I guess
almost the same as the submission number anyway. But
no, but I guess that's my point. What I know is the 269 is 150% of last year. What I don't know is what the 248 is relative to last year, because if I were a taxpayer, wouldn't I care about spending, not submissions? And I don't have a context for what the town manager recommended be spent.
right,
you know?
so you want to see the percentage increase on the recommendation rather than the submissions?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what would matter. I would either be supportive or outraged if I found out that the town manager recommended, you know, some crazy percentage, although I'm also reading this aware that a lot of the recommendation is driven by something that we later say in the report is really not a discretionary spend. The CWMP.
So would
Yeah,
are you?
I get
are
it.
you-
I don't know that it changes it substantially, you know, if
How
it's
many-
an
how
increase of
many-
150% still, you know, on the recommendation side. It does clarify how much was recommended last year rather than just the submissions, yeah.
Right, so I don't want to beat this to death, but I probably am. But let me play devil's advocate. If last year there was a $269.2 million submission, and most of it wasn't CWMP, but this year we have a recommendation of 250. You know, I'm doing the math here. What, 65% of which is CWMP? Then that's different than if they were both 65-year. I made my point. I'll stop talking now. I think we're giving context on the one variable I don't think is as important as the other ones. I would either want to know what the recommendations were or how much CWMP impacted the recommendations year over year, rather than what were submitted. And I'll just stop there. If we want to leave it as is, there's nothing wrong with the way it is.
So suppose we insert a sentence after 60 projects of the 60, or just insert a sentence, CWMP made up X million.
No,
of
that
the recommended
Yeah, well, it says
project.
CWMP
It
totals
does say
169.7.
I think what Chuck is getting at is the 247.9 for 60 projects. So if we take away the 60 projects, out of this, the town manager recommended 247.9, period.
Right. Yes, I mean, the point
because,
here is,
because we don't know how many projects or the 269.2 represented. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, the point is,
we have 152% more, but then we go down to 60 projects, which are not quite the same. So if we take away the 60 projects and just stop after the 247.9 million, then it makes more sense. And then we go into the projects recommended. We're only dealing with dollars rather than the number of projects, I think, is what Chuck is trying to get to.
I think that's fine. Chris, if you're okay, we could delete to fund 60 projects.
That's fine, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a big
Not
deal.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we sat in on all these meetings for CIP, and I mean, they work from it's a total bottoms up approach, and there's no bias, and all these department heads, they're submitting all their capital projects as they see them for their department, and it gets eventually rolled up. then all the departments review them, and then those review and submissions are presented to the town manager. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I don't know what the purpose of trying to analyze between submission and approval, what that benefits anybody. I mean, that's just the process. And it's going to fluctuate year over year. There's no rhyme or reason.
Again, I'm not trying to beat this, but I don't know what the number was. Let's say CWMP last year, out of a $250 million spend, which is, I don't know what we spent, but if it was 50 million, then, you know, the CWMP this year is occupying a significantly larger percentage of the total town manager recommendations. And I would think that would send the message to people that the town manager is being prudent in trying to manage the bottom line while dealing with the reality of an exponentially increasing CWMP component. You know, that is a message that as a taxpayer, I'd want to hear, that they're not just spending money willy-nilly and, oh, this sounds good, so let's just do it, that somebody's got a budget in mind. But A, maybe that's not the way it's done, or B, maybe my point is wrong, and CWMP was a comparable dollar amount last year. So to Jim's point, nothing's really changing, so why are we making a big deal about this?
Yeah, to provide you all a little bit of context here, last year, I think we only budgeted 5.2 million for the CWMP. It was all design. And after the design came the construction budgets, which is the 169 million that you see here. So it's a significant increase because it involves all the construction for which the design money was appropriated in the previous year.
But Mark, I assume that also means then that the town manager last year, I don't know what the total recommendation was last year, I don't remember. But if it was 250 or something even close to that.
The 5.2 million. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was it?
It was the 5.2 million that was submitted. All of it got recommended because it was only 5.2 million for design.
No, I'm sorry. Total recommendation. What was the 247.9 number last year?
It was 33.6.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was 33.6.
Yeah.
But that was just design.
Right.
I mean, getting ready.
But I think Chuck's point is good. Yeah. That's the number we want. Is what was the amount of money that was recommended last year, and we can compare it to this year. Because that first sentence for me, the submissions totaled, like I don't even know if that sentence is necessary. Like the projects submitted, there were 20. We were talking about 20 million that isn't getting funding. So why are we even talking about submissions? Like I think the number is, this is the amount of money that's being recommended, and here's the comparison with last year. That's like what I would want to know of. This is recommended. Last year's number is way smaller, and now you can see that very clearly.
Well, they have the 5-year comparison. What do we want to tell the public?
Yeah, I think maybe what you want to do is eliminate the text that I just highlighted and just talk about what was recommended.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay.
Is that helpful, Chuck, to do it that way?
That's what I wanted
that clears it up a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So let's delete all that. Yeah, that's clean. Right. That's very clean.
And maybe just state like, which is an increase of this percentage from fiscal year 2024. Well, I don't know what that percentage is, but it just might be that comparison that someone's curious about. But it is down below, so I don't know.
If you go down to the chart at the bottom here, we show that. So you can see that. Let's see.
Yeah, no, those are submissions.
No.
Yeah, that's the 5-year plan comparison, which is different anyway than year over year. But I think it's fine to put in the 24 recommendation number, that's fine. We'll have to see what that was.
So total recommendations.
Let's see. We know that.
I mean, it should be in that
Total
report. Yeah.
recommendations last year were 67.6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to Chuck's point, I mean, it's more like a 400% increase than a 152% increase. So
Well,
that is a totally different number, you know.
Plus, the components are very different. If last year it was, I've forgotten already, what did we say, 33 or 36, something like that?
Yeah.
So if it's one of those -5 for the CWMP, you spent 30 on non-CWMP stuff. This year, if I look at these numbers, you're spending almost 90 million on non-CWMP stuff in a year where CWMP went up by, I don't know, 1,200%. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, if I'm reading this right, I would want to know.
Well, if you do that, should we add an explanatory sentence? That why CWMP went up from 33.6?
Well,
to
that's done in
69?
the CWMP section? Do you talk about the changes year over year in the actual CWMP section?
In my CWMP section, which I will take responsibility, I only talk about, we were told to cut it off, so my section only talks about when they're gonna be sewered and how much it's gonna be cost, how much it'll cost. I do not talk about the increase.
Right.
I normally would have, let's see. No, I just talk about general. For the 5-year 25-29, the projects add up to 432, and the estimate for 24 to 28 is 293. But we don't talk about the increase. I don't deal with that. It's more nitty-gritty information for the residents.
So
I would I think we need to move on, but based on what everyone said, maybe we could add a sentence after the 69.7 million. Just make the statement that CWMP construction costs accounted for, or just say that the CWMP budget grew by X million, 135 million, whatever the number is, due to construction costs.
So you could say something like as it moved from the design phase to the construction phase.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. So Chris, do you want to put that together and send it in?
I think we can just add a sentence there that CWMP costs have gone up as it transitions from design to construction.
Yeah, that's
like
perfect.
Tom said.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Hector, even without being asked, I'm gonna take a shot at this paragraph because I still think we're apples and oranging some of this stuff, and I've heard different numbers thrown around that purport to talk about the same expense. So just so we're clear, I'll send to Chris what I would suggest, and then you guys can play around with it whatever you want to. But I'm trying to read this from the reader's standpoint, and I don't think just adding a sentence about CWMP going up is getting to the point I'm trying to get to here. So let me put it in writing so we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Chuck, could you send that to all of us?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving on.
Not quite. The paragraph that starts enterprise funds, line 3, and I appreciate the wide-ranging terminology, but I don't think we really need it. So the majority of the so if we delete wide-ranging, I mean, we're trying to. Do you see where it is? There it is. I'm suggesting that we just delete that because we know they're wide-ranging.
Okay. Anything else on this page?
No, it's good.
All right. Public education we've covered.
Okay. I have a question, Hector.
Yep.
This is more of a formatting issue, but are we centering the text across the page, or are we keeping it right justified like it shows here? I think we were centering everything across the page.
That's fine. Let's center.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Otherwise, if you try to write justify, it gives rise to some crazy spacing.
Well, we have just to be nitty, we have always write justified in our.
Let's try centering this time, and let's see how it looks in the next version.
Okay. All right.
Now the next page, 9.
Now we've done that one.
Keep going. The next page, Mark, I couldn't figure out, how do you delete a page in this Word document?
You just delete it.
No, you gotta do what he's doing.
I couldn't figure it out. At any rate, that page needs to be deleted. Whoa, all right. Not sure how you did that, but that worked well. All right.
Section break in there.
Okay. Tom Keene, you are the author of the next 2 pages. Do you have any comments, questions?
My only question is this too long?
Well, last year it was 1 page. I thought that what you put in plain English some helpful information. You made this conversational. I looked at this and thought, how can I cut this? But we're going to either have to cut this down to 1 page or the CWMP section down to 1 page. I don't know. What do other people think about cutting what Tom has done here?
Yeah, I've got comments. I think it's very well done. I think it's very informative. I like the style, but I think it's a bit long. And there's some things, and I like the chattiness of it, but maybe we could condense part of it.
Yeah, so
I think some of the examples you give could possibly be condensed.
Yeah, so what I could do, this is something that would take me a couple of hours to focus on. I don't think I can do it here.
Right.
But I can reduce it down. Yeah, it's easy to write long, hard to write short, but I can reduce it down.
So what do people think? This might help Tom in his reduction. Do people think that the residential property tax rates chart is needed? Does that really help us or help?
I don't know. It encourages people to move elsewhere.
Except to Sandwich, where Jeremy used to live.
Except to Sandwich.
Oops.
I guess I'm heading to Dennis.
What do you get for your services, though, for that tax rate?
I know. And there's a host of reasons why. Right. So I just don't know if it's all that necessary.
Yeah. And if you delete that, and
if you delete comparisons altogether,
that helps you cut this down to 1 page.
I think I almost might do that. And Mark, is that if someone goes to the QR code, would that information be there?
Let's see.
Comparative, the comparison with other towns.
We won't have the comparative. No, we don't have the comparative on our website.
Yeah.
So where does this data come from?
I pull it off of the Division of Local Services website.
Yeah.
And Mark, does this include? Yes, this does include the fire EMS. Is every town in that?
The chart does.
Yeah.
The chart does, but I think we're the only town on the Cape that has a separate fire district tax.
So everyone else just folds it into the.
It's in their general fund.
So you should include it.
Yeah, so that's why I average of the fire district tax rates, because we have 5 different ones. So which one do you use? So I take an average.
Let's keep it for the moment. Let me see what I can do in terms of otherwise shrinking. All right,
Okay.
because it is actually really important information.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
I
a
think
great
so.
chart.
I think
I think
so.
it's a great chart.
Can
Right.
you roll back up to the first page of Tom's report? Yeah. On line 2, the town is required to, and I think you have to add the word annually.
But it's
Yeah.
not annual.
I'm
It's
sorry,
not though, right?
Yeah, it's not.
it's not what?
Not
Annual.
annual.
Yeah, we update property values annually.
But they're not assessed annually. Are
They're
they?
reevaluated. Aren't they reevaluated every year?
Right, but they aren't assessed, is his point, which is a
Yeah.
different process.
Ah,
What's the difference?
Well, the assessor goes to a property to assess it, whereas the
Uh-huh.
evaluation is not due to a assessor visiting.
So to value a property, they use big models and averages. And, okay.
I think what I might just do is, instead of the word assess, because that's a loaded word, just determine. But
yeah,
again,
that's a
that's
good
something
word.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
And you know, the what you have is really very good information. If you could just sort of tighten it up,
I will.
Right.
and maybe we don't need all
I'll
those
I'll get it
examples.
to one page.
Thank you.
And
That sounds
Tom,
great.
I mean, you guys don't mind point to type, do you?
Tom, just one suggestion on this. In the middle of the big paragraph that starts basically.
Yep.
I'd stay away in the middle of that from rich or poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in here that's
Yeah, that part. Mark, would you
basically
do me a favor?
editorial. Yeah.
Mark, would you do me a favor and just after this, send me this updated version of it, and so I can work off the most recent version, and I will endeavor to get this to everybody on the committee by Wednesday.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Our next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight, correct?
Right.
Right. Okay. So that we're working on a deadline of making your changes by middle of next week.
Yeah,
But I'll get it done quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. CWMP. So here's where.
Wait a minute.
Sorry. You
Okay.
have more comments on property taxes, Lillian?
No, I'm ready to go to CWMP.
Okay. So on CWMP, I thought one of the things that this page encouraged me to do with links and QR codes is go to the Barnstable, what's it called? The Barnstable Water Resources website. So one of my thinking was that, for example, the listing of fiscal 25 to 29 projects, you can get all that info and more from the water resources page. So when I was working on this, I was trying to see if we could cut it to one page. So that was the reason for the first highlight section, first section to be deleted. I didn't think that was necessary. I think you can send people to the water resources website, which has, as everybody has said, lots of information. And then the second highlighted section, I thought could be helpful, could be included in footnote 1. The first part of the footnote, yeah, Lillian, let me finish and then you can jump in. So I thought that we could have the footnote be comprised of 2 things: revenue sources that we have today, and then possible sources of financing for future revenue. And that way we could cut the font and get rid of and then delete it from the main part of the text. So that was really my goal. I was trying to get this down to 2 pages, to 1 page. But I think if Tom is going to reduce the property tax page to 1 page, then I think, we have more liberties to play with on the 2 CWMP pages. Okay, Lillian, fire away.
Okay, so if you'll start at the top, that's fine. The reason I have these, remember, we're addressing the residents with their two questions. When am I going to get sewered and how much it's going to cost?
Right.
The reason I put in these projects 25 to 29 is because it provides the reader with exactly what we're doing this in this 5-year plan.
But it doesn't answer either of those two questions up top.
No, but it gives you information.
Right,
And
which
I
you can
think
get
that- and
on the Barnes, you can
But
get that same
they don't-
information
they
on the
don't-
resource.
But they don't know that. They don't know
Well,
that.
we
So,
refer
what we-
people
what
to go to
what
the
we-
water resources page. So
Wait a minute.
I think it's
Hold on,
unnecessary for this.
I disagree with you because I really think that they need to know what is going on now. You know, we weave in and out of the sewer construction detours. I think they'd like to know what is going on now. Now, if you want to, I firmly believe that it should be incorporated. What we can do is to decrease the type size for this.
Well, we want to have the same font throughout the document. So this is 11 fonts, I think.
So if you dropped it to 10, it'll take up a lot less space.
Yeah. Well, as I said,
But I disagree with you because I really think that the residents are not necessarily going to the website. They're not necessarily going to use the QR code. And this, as they weave around, they want to know what's going on here now. So that's the reason. I mean, I tried not to put anything extraneous in there. So that's the reason for including it. Okay. So if you want to decrease it to 10 or 9,
I don't want to change the font size. It should be consistent throughout. And as I said in my introductory comments, if we do have, you have 2 pages to fill if Tom cuts his back to 1. So there's less.
I get some extra space.
Yeah, you could put in more information.
Well, no. Brevity is next to holiness.
On this one too, I think personally a visual of those projects, like there's an excellent map that shows the projects, and I like as a resident seeing the map in some ways might be more helpful than seeing a list of projects. I mean, obviously it might be the similar amount of space, but I think visually a map is a really helpful component for what is getting done in town, of where the
that map, Jeremy, is on the water resources page.
Yeah, the map. And what we could say is, if you want to go see a map, look to the page. But the map actually is very huge.
Yeah, and that might be the challenge of it, but I think with this, there's a lot of text, and certainly be helpful for the visual learners of the community.
Anyway, this is straightforward. It's accurate.
All right. What do other people think? What do other people think about this list of projects over the next 5 years? All this text. Chuck, do you?
I think it's fine to include it as long as there's room for it. If we had to cut it out, that would be fine. But as long as we have 2 pages here, I think it's fine to include it and mention specifically that there is a map on that website that can be looked at. Because I think size constraints, it would be difficult to put the map on this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I think listening to projects makes a lot of sense too. It gives people something concrete, so to speak.
Okay.
The cost part is fine.
Chuck, do you have any comments?
I don't disagree with Tom and Chris. I think as long as
Okay, so Mark, you can remove the highlighting and that red parenthetical. Yeah.
Okay, the cost part is fine. The financing part is the next page. Okay, hold on. I think we need, I think the town finance department current estimates on line 1, the word town finance department current estimates.
Okay, that's fine.
We'll put it in there so I can see it.
And then you're getting rid of current 5 words later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Because the current estimate is more important than the current 5-year plan. Okay, so then established. So what you need is a superscript 1 at the end of sources on line 2. Superscript 1.
So you footnote. That's what you mean? Yeah.
Right,
footnote.
superscript 1.
Yeah.
And that will take care of the revenue sources.
Okay.
Okay. And then what happens is, what are we talking about? The volatile, no, go back. Where are we? Did you, okay. Could you go back to that previous paragraph?
So what do you want the footnote to say?
Yeah. Will require additional funding. And so it's superscript 2, not 21. You got it? Okay. And then you can delete all this yellow part, but then you have to go down to the
and break up the footnote
okay,
to
so
1 and 2. That's fine.
So,
Good.
okay, so you need to change, number 2 becomes number 1 and possible sources becomes number 2.
Okay, I'll fix those.
All right. Now, Lillian, I had a question. You inserted this phrase as unfunded
Oh, wait,
federal.
wait. You forgot to include a part of the cost. How much will it cost me? And we go through the cost and the connection. But then you forgot the part about when will my property be sewered? It comes after connection.
Right. And
So
I took that out.
We need to put that back in because that's part of the question of the first paragraph.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's
can
fine.
You put that
That
back
was
in?
taken out because of space limits.
Okay.
So.
But that's an important part so they can look it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This reference to unfunded federal mandate, Lillian.
It's true.
Do you think we should have a sentence of explanation for what that is?
No.
Is the average reader going to know? Jeremy, do you know what an unfunded federal mandate is?
No.
Right.
It's a mandate from the federal government, but it's not funded by the federal government.
Right. I think, I'm just raising the question for others to consider. We put in that wonky term. Should we give the reader a sense of what it means? And Lillian is an expert, just so you all know. Lillian wrote at least one paper that I've seen about unfunded federal mandates, which was very helpful because I didn't know what an unfunded federal mandate was before I read that paper. But I'm just wondering, it's sort of it's a term that we put in here. Do people think that we need to give it a little bit of explanation? What do people think?
Are there any specific ones we're thinking of that are significant?
CWMP? CWMP is not a federally funded mandate.
Yeah. So the notion, Tom, is, and Lillian, correct me if I misstate, is the federal government, courtesy of the EPA and also the state EPA, requires various municipalities, including everyone on the Cape, to clean up their act with respect to nitrogen. But the government doesn't give us any money to do it. So it's a mandate that they don't fund, hence unfunded federal mandate.
I think what we can do, to clarify it a little bit, if we go as an unfunded federal mandate, and then take out future funding, CWMPs, take out future funding of. CWMPs, future funding will be a continuing financial challenge. We don't need urgent. We know it's urgent. Financial challenge. And I think that basically will explain what CWMP is.
Okay. Anyone else have a view on my question about
Anybody else
unfunded federal mandate? You know, I'm not trying to, beat this to death. It just said to me, when I saw this phrase, I said, oh, what's that? You know, so at any rate, people don't think we need to have a sentence of explanation. I'm fine with that.
Well, what a
with the
basic
change that Lillian just made.
Yeah, if you need it to be expanded, I'll be happy to. But by saying that it's an unfunded mandate and identifying which project that is and what the consequences will be or the challenges will be, and that way you can delete all that little yellow section now.
Okay, because that's in a footnote now.
Yeah, that was now in a footnote.
Good. Okay.
So there we have it.
Great. So Lillian, if there's anything else you want to add to these 2 pages, I think you have a little room to. I don't want to open Pandora's box here, but if there's anything else that you think is crucial, we're open to it.
Thank you very much, but I've said everything I need to say there.
Okay.
I tried to make it as concise and clear as possible.
Okay.
In as few words as I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Other comments on this page, folks?
Yeah, you can take all that out.
So I think that point on the unfunded federal mandate, the part that comes into mind is then the funding is coming exclusively from the town. So the funding is not coming from the federal government. Is there funding coming from other sources, though, that is not federal, namely
there's state money, money.
So I think maybe stating that unfunded federal, I don't know how that gets in there, but maybe acknowledge there is funding from the state would be helpful in that.
All right. All right. Well, Lillian, think about that. And if you have any changes to that,
I will.
You can throw them in.
And
I got some wonky formatting going on here that I will have to work on. I'm not going to do it. But you can see when I start deleting from here on, everything goes to the next page. So I got to figure that out.
That's exactly what I encountered on Saturday night. All right.
Don't forget to add that section, Hector. When will my property be sewered?
Right. The reference.
Okay.
The reference to the assessor website. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
The
next page, which is now page 12. It's in this document, it's labeled as, it should probably says 13 now. Yeah.
But we got up to 12.
So I did a little bit of rewording and tightening. And Mark, I hope you're okay with taking out the GFOA box, and I put in the reference to these awards, which I think are amazing to have these awards for all these years. In the accountable and transparent section, the section that's new here is the looking ahead section. I did make a little condensing of the AAA bond rating section, and I added the first bullet, very strong economy and tax base. That's the first factor that S&P cites. So I put that in as a new bullet under AAA bond rating. And then the looking ahead section, That's all new. So comments, questions?
Well, I think this is a really good section because we really need to do it. I think, however, in our previous looking ahead sections or keeping an eye on the future, what we've always said is this: the CFAC continues to monitor and bring to the attention of town council and administration. So I think we need to add administration.
Right, and I put in administration in the last sentence. I put in the last sentence, we must all support the town council and administration in meeting the challenges. So we've got the reference to administration in this section. Anything else, folks?
Yes.
Did I leave anything out?
Yes. If you remember, well, there's some of the things that appeared in our looking ahead section of the operating budget report. So I think you need to go back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was the funding of employee benefits that we need to begin looking at.
Right, and that's referred to, and
exactly,
that's referred to in the 6th bullet, the employee benefits. It occurs to me, it's a good suggestion, Lion. It occurs to me, I remember when Chris gave his talk to town council, he talked about how we're tapping a higher amount of reserves within the last couple of years, so we need to be careful about depleting our reserves. However, I don't think that point rises to the level of importance of the 6 bullets that I put in here.
Well,
but,
I think these are fine, but
okay, good.
I think we also need to remember that when Mark Ellis came to our committee, he talked about 3 major issues. One was the schools, which you have. He talked about roads, which I do not see.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talked about water. The recycled water, the potable water, the groundwater water, the wastewater, just basically water. So I think we need to recognize those things because it's a priority for administration. And if you want to go back to the operating budget summary, I think that Chuck wrote some really good looking ahead observations.
Okay.
And the CIP also had some.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. I'll go back and look at those.
Yeah.
We are a little bit space constrained here, but I think your reference to water is a good one, and we can.
And don't forget the roads. The roads are going to be imperative.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But other than that.
So I have a question for you. Want to keep this QR code, which I believe last year was linked to a survey that Neil created, and I don't know where he created it, where it exists. And is somebody here knowledgeable as to how to create a similar survey? And do you want to do that again? I don't think we got any responses from the one last year.
Right. I think we got one response last year.
Can we just delete this?
Yes.
I think we can. I'd like to know what other people think. Tell us what you think about this section.
I agree. Delete.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm fine with getting rid of it. Yeah, we got the one response. I don't think it really accomplished anything.
Right. We should leave in, Mark, the reference to the CFAC email address. Although it's something I'd like to figure out how to publicize more so people feel free to contact us. But the bulk of that tell us what you think section, I think we can get rid of.
I think you can get rid of all of it and just put the email address underneath the committee members.
Yeah, I think what you can do is
Yeah,
you can
perfect.
get rid of all of this and just say if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
good.
under the
Perfect.
committee
Just have
members' names.
Yeah, perfect.
So you can get rid of, tell us what you think.
Exactly.
All right. So
Okay.
on the looking ahead section, I commit to go back and look at the two,
There you go.
the CIP report and the operating report
Yeah.
to see if there's anything we can add here. We'll have a
Yeah.
little more
Well, I
space
have
to
a
play with.
question on, Hector, on the evaluating revisions to the local
Yep.
zoning. Where is that coming from? Do we talk about
So,
that?
so there's the local comprehensive plan, this big LCP effort that's going on now.
Right,
It's being driven by the town's planning department,
right, I'm aware of
and
that.
so that's what this is.
But why would
this
that
is
be
a
coming from us? I mean, that's
Pardon?
part of the dialogue from the last meetings, that there's 3 committees involved with this, and they
Right,
don't
and then
just let it go, so-
right. So that's the whole issue, Jim, of zoning. It's connected with, it's connected with the housing issue, obviously, but that's what that bullet is referred to. It's not the LCP and I think 2 of the 3 ad hoc committees.
I just don't see where that if the committee wants to keep it, I just don't see where it falls. It's part of our purview.
No, it's not. The looking ahead is not, it's not direct. All of this is not directly under CFAC's purview, but these are challenges that the town council is facing in the years ahead. So that's why I included it. It's a big issue for the town.
Well, I'm just going to jump in and say that normally when we had a looking ahead in this report, we limited ourselves to financial issues. But we certainly can expand it if the committee decides to do that. But I just want to we used to have this many years ago, and we only dealt with the issues that were that CFAC dealt with.
Right, and that's true. And
yeah, and so I'm going to pick up on what Jim said. Maybe adopting policies is not to create more housing, and it's not in our purview right now.
Well, it isn't, but to the extent that the policies require town spending on land or whatever, I think it's germane. This section is meant to touch on the major challenges facing the town. And so you're right that it's not directly financial in nature, but all of these 6 topics have financial implications. So I'm in favor of keeping all 6 in. Other people have a point of view.
Is there a way you could put them as your prerogative as the chair? These are your words. I mean, because I have no problem with what you're saying. I agree. I think it's important, but I think it's out of our swim lane. And I think that if as the chair, you feel it's important, I'd support that.
Yeah.
But I think it should be coming, this is what as the chair, your vision of the future is.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. So let's say the second bullet would be just renovation to school buildings and related facilities instead of planning for and financing. Renovation is a challenge.
Well, we've talked
we're really only talking about the money part of the renovations. We're not planning it.
Right.
Yeah. So if we can get rid of a couple of words here and there, and we can add.
All right, I'll take a look at it, but I think all 6 of these bullets are important to have in here. And if we want to ascribe this to the chair, I'm happy to do that. But I would prefer to have, a section that the entire committee supports. So I don't know what other people think. Do other people think that none of this belongs, or some of this doesn't belong in this document?
I tend to agree with Jim and Lillian that the housing part of it and the local zoning ordinances, that's really not directly relevant to what we're doing with CFAC, so I'm not sure those should really be there. You know, again, we're just looking at the financial stuff, and none of that is mentioned anywhere in our report or anything else, so I don't think it's really in our purview, like Jim said.
Yeah.
Okay.
It may not be appropriate in this report.
Other thoughts?
I'd say the one thing perhaps missing as a young person is climate resiliency. I mean, it mentions infrastructure, but I think the infrastructure is specific towards wind farms and the soil aquifer. So I think just like that piece, it's massive and vague, but is something that is going to cost a lot of money when it comes to if we have to elevate roads and certainly like move infrastructure. So maybe infrastructure challenges when it comes to climate resiliency, or I mean, NPR had an article about like if a storm hits, what are we gonna do? And I think that's like, you know, if we get hit by a hurricane, all these financial plans that we have really do shift a lot. So that planning for resiliency, I think, is really important.
Okay. Let me see if I can weave that in.
Yeah.
Chuck, Tom, do you guys have views?
I mean, probably a lot more issues that aren't even here that face the town, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I kind of wonder, why are we now picking out a handful?
Yeah.
Because they're clearly all major challenges facing the town council in the future, in future years.
As there are others, like, you know,
Right.
like climate change and
Right. Well, we can add climate change.
the impact of tourism. I mean, you know, you can go on and on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, some of these are very specific, and if we decide to go more general, that would be okay.
Yeah.
The one about the substations, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it impacts on us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to decide whether the substation is going to be built.
No, but if the town votes to approve 2 more wind farms, there will be substations built, and that's part of the issue that as you know, Lillian, that hundreds, if not thousands of residents are focused on. So again, this section is meant to call out a variety of issues that are financial or indirectly financial in nature that the town council and the town administration have to deal with in the years ahead. That's all it does. So I'm not trying to, you know, I would hope that members of the committee would look at these 6 bullet points in that light. I think it's mistaken to say that some of these aren't directly financial, because I think they all have, in one way or another, financial implications that the town is going to have to consider. So that's the point of this section, looking ahead. If people don't think we want to have a looking ahead section in the document, that's another thing. But I'm strongly in favor of having a section like this. It just livens up the document.
Well,
obviously everything the town does has a financial impact, but I think for the purposes of this report, though, it should be looking ahead on what we're talking about in the report. You know, that's my sense, which some of these things are not talked about in the report.
Right.
So it just may not be the appropriate, you know, setting for those things in this report, is my thought.
Well, I agree with what Chris said, you know, and what Jim said. policies for housing, evaluating local zoning. Maintaining competitive pay is something that we deal with in our reports. And I still wonder about the substations because that's a ways off. We don't deal with it. CFAC has always been apolitical. We don't take sides on anything. And
we're not taking sides here.
No, I understand that. But I'm following up what you said, that there are thousands of people who are interested in what happens. And I think there are thousands of people who are interested in what happens to the CWMP too. But anyway, if you would look at those two reports that we put together.
Yep.
And then remember what the town manager stressed as his priorities, I think we got it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
And then, so if we're done with this, let's talk about the next version. So Mark, you've made a variety of changes to this document.
Yes, what I was planning on doing is just emailing you this document that I have here up on my screen to you directly right after this meeting, and I'll send
as version 4.
Version 4, okay.
Right, and email it to everybody, and then Chuck has 3 or 4 pages he wants to make some edits to, and Lillian has some changes to make, I believe, and I'll look at the last page for the looking ahead section. And then as people, so Chuck, for example, as you make changes, can you email them to me?
Yep.
And then I'll paste it into what will become version 5. Does that make sense?
Yep, will do.
Okay. And Tom, of course, your section and so forth.
So so at the next meeting, we will look at version 5 and see if there are any more changes.
Right. And hopefully we can at the next meeting approve the final version. We can edit, make any word changes, and have a final section which we can vote on as a committee.
Hector, when is this due? When do you want to send this out?
I think by it would be my goal to get it to the version 5 with everybody's changes by, say, the Friday before the next meeting.
Okay.
So Jim, if you have any changes, if you can submit them no later than, say, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week.
Okay.
And that would go for everybody else who has changes, then we can go from there.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you.
So that would be like the 6th of September. That's Friday.
Right.
6th.
Right.
No. So hold on, let me just look at the.
I mean, I'll have mine earlier, but I mean, that's the next.
Well, Tuesday is the 3rd. So you're saying early next week you want them, like by mid?
Yeah, so why don't we say no later than Wednesday, September 4th?
Okay.
Okay.
And that'll give me time to incorporate everything in and circulate a final draft by Friday the 6th or Saturday the 7th.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
great. Mark, do we have other items on the agenda? I don't have the agenda open in front of me.
The only other item was the review of the model.
Yeah, we were going to look at the model.
If
Maybe
everybody
we
had
can
a
look at
chance to review the model that I emailed out for funding the CWMP for the next 5 years, we were going to talk about that tonight, if you want to.
Well, I did spend some time with the model, and my major takeaway, Mark, as we've discussed, is that that's the model for fiscal 25 through 29, and the issue that I think we all need to be concerned about is what about the subsequent 5 years and the subsequent, the fiscal 26 through fiscal 30 and so forth. So otherwise, I thought the model was very helpful, and I played around with some of the inputs, but it behaved very much as you designed it.
Okay, because we discussed this with town council leadership, and actually the full council, and they had asked that this group come back with some comments on that model to provide them some assurances that it's sound, or maybe any concerns you might have. I know, Hector, you brought up the point of New England one's $16 million contribution for that project should not be included as one of the funding sources in this model. And if we were to delete that, what else has to change in order to keep it in positive financial condition? So and we can certainly play around with that. And I mean, I can pull it up here and show you, for example, what we could do to change it if we were to eliminate that revenue source.
Okay.
Do you want to quickly do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so if we were to eliminate this and make that 0, you can see our available resources fall below what our commitments under this program. So that means we've got to adjust some things up here and some of the other revenue sources. And, if we just go right to the general fund contribution and increase that to say from $300,000 a year, problem solved.
Wow.
But we're up to, almost a $7 million annual contribution from the general fund. And we would increase that $300,000 contribution all the way up to fiscal year 32. So that means 8 more years or 7 more years of general fund contributions of an additional $300,000 over that course of time. The other things we could do is play around with, investment rate of return. We could increase that perhaps to 2.5 to maybe 3%. And maybe that will allow us to drop this from 300 down to 250, and we still maintain a positive balance. So we can play around with it like that, and maybe come back with a recommendation to the town council that, we eliminate this funding source, and this is what the impact would be if we did so. We'd have to provide more of a general fund contribution, a little bit more aggressive on our investment rate of return, and so forth.
Well, these are all good thoughts. It would seem to me that maybe we should put on the agenda for the next meeting, have everybody open up this model and play around with it, and come prepared to the next meeting to discuss this. As Mark just did, what if any changes we think could be made in the model.
With that in mind, Mark, when was the council expecting comments back from the committee? Do you have an idea?
They didn't provide a specific date, Jim. So I think the group has some flexibility, but they would probably want to hear back from you before the end of this calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but let's all commit to look at the model closely and come prepared next meeting to discuss it. But as Mark just said, we have a little bit of leeway in terms of time.
Mark, on your model, do you explain where those assumptions come from? Is that on any one of those tabs? I'm just curious.
Yes. So, I mean, I show the history of like meals and rooms tax, for example, what that has been to arrive at the assumptions that I'm using here, which the percentage increases on an annual basis are less than what our actual historical experience has been. Trying to build in some conservatism into the model. But the other increases are kind of typically reflect what we see in the operating side of the budget. 5% increases in salaries, 7.5% increases in employee benefit costs, a 5% increase in construction costs, which is less than what it's been, but things are starting to stabilize.
Thank you.
Well, I think this model is genius. The fact that we can manipulate any of the variables is so helpful.
Should start your own YouTube channel, Mark.
What's that?
You should start your own YouTube channel. Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, you could really advance this to include even more
Yeah.
assumptions that could be tweaked, like Hector brought up the idea of, in addition to the construction cost increase, what if DPW changes the timing of certain projects like they did this year? They pulled in $160 million project this year, which wasn't anticipated until the following year. So that's one thing I haven't built into this model, the flexibility to play around with the timing of projects. But I don't want to make it too complicated. It's complicated enough already.
Okay, well, that all sounds good. Any correspondence from committee members?
I have one.
All right.
It's not correspondence, but it's a piece of information that I want to share with the committee.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to participate in CFAC for the next few months. And just so you won't think that I just disappeared, I'm going to give you information about what I'm doing. When I retired from my previous life, I promised to help my old friends if they ever needed help. So since then, I've helped some friends with statewide and congressional races. So for the next few months, beginning the middle of September and ending after the election in November, I'm going to be involved with the national project. And I'll be back mid-November, but I'll be here through the middle of September.
Okay, so you'll be here, you'll participate in the next meeting.
That's correct.
Great. So you'll help us put this report to bed. That would be great.
Yes.
Okay.
And you have your mail-in ballot, right, Lillian?
Yes, Chris, and I have Mark
Good.
gloves on.
Thank you. Just making sure.
All right. Anyone else?
Nope.
All right. There are no matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Chris, call the roll, please.
Hector,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Great. Thank you
Thank
all.
you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.